You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, episode number 422. The truth may hurt for a little while, but lies hurt forever. Anonymous.
Broadcasting from the back alley in Hollywood, it's the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, where we show you how to survive and thrive as an indie filmmaker in the jungles of the film biz. And here's your host, Alex Ferrari.
Welcome to another episode of the Indie Film Hustle Podcast. I am your humble host, Alex Ferrari. Today's show is sponsored by Rise of the Filmtrepreneur, how to turn your independent film into a profitable business. It's harder today than ever before for independent filmmakers to make money with their films. From predatory film distributors ripping them off to huckster film aggregators who prey upon them, the odds are stacked against the indie filmmaker. The old distribution model of making money with your film is broken, and there needs to be a change. The future of independent filmmaking is the entrepreneurial filmmaker or the filmtrepreneur. In Rise of the Filmtrepreneur, I break down how to actually make money with your film projects and show you how to turn your indie film into a profitable business. With case studies examining successes and failures, this book shows you the step-by-step method to turn your passion into a profitable career. If you're making a feature film, series, or any other kind of video content, the Filmtrepreneur method will set you up for success. The book is available in paperback, ebook, and of course, audiobook. If you want to order it, just head over to www.filmbizbook.com. That's filmbizbook.com. Today's show is also sponsored by the Film Distribution Blueprint. If you want to avoid being taken advantage of by predatory film distributors, this is the course for you. If you want to check it out, head over to indiefilmhustle.com/let me in. Now, guys, today I have a special episode for you because we have returning champion, Shaked Berenson. And Shaked has been on the show a few times before. We've been talking for years in regards to film marketing and distribution. But in today's episode, we're going to talk about the raw truth of film distribution in today's world. And it is a fairly brutal conversation. A lot of truth is dropped in this episode. And I truly hope that this is going to be eye-opening for a lot of you in the tribe listening today, because I know from experience that many times we as independent filmmakers live in somewhat of a magical world where things will all work out the way we hope they will or dream they will, that our films are going to get big deals at Netflix or at a studio, that our directing careers are going to take off. And I'm not saying that can't happen. It happens all the time. And I have those success stories on this show all the time. But Shaked and I wanted to sit down and talk about the other 99.9% of filmmakers working in independent film, what they really need to do to position themselves and their films to have success in the marketplace that we are living in today. And that marketplace is changing so rapidly that episodes like this are needed more and more, because right now our business, as well as the world, is under siege by this pandemic. And honestly, Hollywood is trying to figure out what to do next. I mean, just the other day, Warner Brothers is going to be releasing all of their 2021 films directly on HBO Max. Those are the big studio releases that they have, as opposed to just going theatrical first, which is an atom bomb going off in our industry. It really is. Everyone's just trying to figure things out. So Shaked and I talk about how all of this is affecting independent filmmakers and how the marketplace is changing and how you can adjust to it. So without any further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Shaked Berenson. I'd like to welcome back to the show returning champion, Shaked Berenson. Man, how you doing, Shaked?
I'm good. I don't know if I'm returning champion. I'm returning something, but every time I talk to you, it looks like your empire is bigger. And I'm making the same movies, so You may be the champion.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that, sir. But you have been on the show twice before. This is your third appearance on the show, and every time you are on the show, people love the episodes. And you and I were just chatting the other day, just catching up, and we started talking about distribution. And I just said, "Look, we got to record some of this stuff. This is gold, and we got to put this out for the tribe." So you were nice enough to agree to come in and burn some more bridges for yourself, because isn't it like every time you come on the show, you burn at least 17, 18 bridges?
Yeah. Every time I come to your show, I have at least 10 people that end up not talking to me. But as I say, it's to burn bridges with people that anyway, steal and pillage and
right.
Take money from filmmakers. We might as well burn those bridges, right?
Absolutely. Now, I wanted to, for people who don't know who you are and have not heard the other episodes, can you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you've done?
My name is Shaked Berenson. I was born in the States, but grew up in Israel. This is why I have this weird hybrid accent.
It's fantastic. Very sexy, sir. Very sexy.
Thank you. I try. If I speak like this, it's better. But I came to LA to go to UCLA, study economics, got a degree in business. Didn't come here with any dream to be an actor or anything like that, like many people that come here. But I couldn't find a job as a bartender, so I started working for a film producer that at the time working on a little movie called Ghostwriter. And from there, as a personal assistant, started moving up the level, getting experience in every aspect, both on set and different departments, but also on the business side. And in 2007, started my own foreign sales agency and produced movies. Since then, I think I just recently counted 41 films that I either executive produced or was a lead producer. Beside that, I've done sales and distributed over 160 films, sold to companies like Netflix, dozens of movies, worked with HBO. Right now I'm delivering a film to Stars and AMC Network, all the way down to small indie distributors in different countries and some fly-by-night companies. So really I've done everything A to Z, and from being in small. Produced some very low-budget films for a movie like Jerusalem, which is found footage and was in the $130,000 range, to Vikingdom, which is an action film that we did for $11.6 million, or my animation franchise, Space Dogs, which is 20-plus each film. So I really have wide experience, really in all genres, budgets, from an idea, developing an idea, all the way down to stocking DVDs at Walmart and doing the price reduction.
So you've done a little bit of everything in the business, and you've been in the business for a while. Now, you started distributing your own films a while ago. Can you explain to the audience why you decided what happened and what caused you to say, wait a minute, this system is busted. I'm going to get screwed. I got screwed. I'm not going to get screwed again. Let me build a system out so I can start funneling out my my projects in a way that I can kind of control a little bit better than if having to go to a distributor specifically.
Yeah, it really came out of necessity, because at the beginning, obviously, I guess the most fun part is to make the movies. In order to make the movies, and you give it to foreign sales, you either get an MG or you're not. I think it's better not to get an MG, actually. But you get an MG, and then you spend the next 3 years chasing the sales agent for reports and for money and just wasting more time. So we started to do our own foreign sales and started traveling around the world. At the time, I was probably doing 6 to 9 months of traveling internationally, both to a lot of broadcasters in different countries, and also the regular film festivals that we all know about. And then on the domestic side, we used to just sell our movies for a domestic distributor. But then, let me think, it was around 2013 that we started venturing into the domestic distribution, mainly because of a small film we made that was so small that we couldn't really get a good MG, and also we made enough money from the foreign side that we didn't really need to get a big distribution from the domestic side. So, and the offers were so like, you go out to some movie and you get offers like 15 grand, like 20 grand. And we're talking about 2000 and probably 10 or.
But what was the budget of the film?
13. Oh, the budget of the movie was 75 grand, right?
Right. So
the budget was 75. I'll never forget because I sold to Spain to Quattro, which since then has been acquired by Mediaset. But Quattro bought. It was kind of like a sci-fi channel, and they used to buy those low budget films, and we sold it for I think over 80,000 euros just for Spain. So we covered the entire budget just from one territory. So
and you went directly to them.
Oh yes, directly. So I spend a lot of time traveling to different countries to
building the network.
And really, you cannot do it any other way because at markets, the distributors usually slot 30 minutes meetings, which means that they need 5 to 10 minutes to find the next meeting and 5 to 10 minutes to come from the previous one. So you have 10 minutes with them. You can't build a relationship like that. But if you go to Spain 2 or 3 times a year, come to their office, they invite you to lunch, they always want to show you their sound stages and everything. You build a much stronger relationship. So the movie was already sold and profitable. And the deals were so low that we thought, we can just stand in a corner and sell DVDs, a few hours a day and find the same money, right? So we might as well just try to do it. And we reached out to a few companies, got a Redbox deal. So it was already like 80 grand right off the bat. Comparing to the $15,000 offer we got, and then we put it on VOD through an aggregator that you mentioned their name before we start recording, but I'm not going to mention my name because I don't going to mention because I try not to speak ill of companies. But
if it's distributor, sir, you could speak ill completely, sir, because I've spoken ill. I've spoken ill about that company quite often because they screwed 1,000 filmmakers and are owed millions of dollars and they went bankrupt. So I have no problem saying that. And I generally don't call any. And I generally don't call out any companies in my podcast, but they have a special place in my heart. Continue, sir.
And distribution out of necessity, because I found that you just get, on a good day, a 75 grand or 125 grand, and that's it. And they give you a movie away for 15 years. And sometimes I remember the first movie that I produced, somebody on Facebook told me, "Hey, your movie is on Redbox." Nobody even told me. And to think about yourself as a filmmaker and your level of intimacy with the project and the knowledge of the people that can actually promote the film, especially these days, 15 or 17 years later or whatever it is, it's really a shame that those movies just go into a pipeline and nobody tells the filmmakers when and if it goes out, and there's no transparency, and it's very hard for the filmmakers to promote because today, if the filmmaker is not doing a lot of the legwork to promote the movie themselves, you're losing a lot of the awareness that you can build for the film. So just as an example, maybe the writer is Turkish, right? And he has connections in Turkey and he can help you get a Turkish sale, but if the sales agent is not communicating with the producer and with the director on a regular basis, they'll never know that, right? So I build distribution that is more oriented like that, and I made myself a mission to cut as many barriers between the actual release and the filmmakers. So,
now, when you say 125,000 or 75 or 125,000 MG, those days are gone for the most part, especially for lower budget independent films. So I just want to make sure everyone understands. It's like, I could go out and get 100. My film only costs 50,000. I'll get 125,000 MG. I'm like, it generally doesn't work that way. Would you agree with me?
It doesn't. No, there are still companies
sure.
That get those. We just sold a movie for, especially when you sell directly to streamers like Netflix.
Well, those are deals.
Shudder.
Those are deals,
yeah.
not MGs specifically. Like that's a deal. That's a selling deal. I'm talking about going to a distributor and a distributor going, "We'll give you 125,000 for the film for 15 years, and then when we make more than 125,000, then we're going to give you a check." Which
yeah. So just to be. And again, this is my experience in talking
sure.
with the people. I've been the board of the Independent Film and Television Alliance for many years, so I have a lot of friends in distribution and the foreign sales side. So, we all share information. When we talk about a movie getting $125,000 MG from a domestic distributor, it's two things. First of all, we're talking about a $5 million movie, or a $3 million movie, right? So it's not that you get for your basement $30,000. I made a movie with my wife and friends, kind of thing. We're talking about a movie that
has stars,
goes out, win audience award at South by Southwest, has I won't say stars, but have recognizable SAG actors. Those movies still get it. So one is just to know the budget level, and the second thing, and this is something that you and I spoke offline, that in this market, because you don't have the DVD, you don't have a theatrical. We can talk about that for 4 hours, just that, but because you have so much uncertainty and the number of deals is small, those deals usually happen because the distributor already have in mind or even a deal in their pocket with a streamer, right? So if you have a good relationship with, if it's a Netflix or a Shudder and you're already talking to them and in festivals and, the movie's playing and they're like, what do you think about this movie? Like, yeah, that looks great. That looks like something we're going to pick up. You kind of have the relationship and you can feel comfortable putting those offers out because you know that you're backed by somebody that can help you pay that bill. But to have somebody just taking a risk on $300,000 on a film without having anything that they kind of think of to sell it, I think it's rare these days.
Yeah, it's from what I understand as well. It's extremely, extremely rare, and it's a percentage based thing. So, like, if you're going to have $100,000 movie, if you get an MG, you might be $5,000, might be 10, and 10 is a really great MG for $100,000 movie. So if you have $3 or $4 million movie, 125, 150, it seems relative to the cost. But the days of getting an MG that's more than the budget, unless it's a Sundance thing or a lottery ticket, it's rare. It's extremely rare. So I just wanted to make sure that the audience.
It is a lottery ticket. Yeah. And I think that the funny thing is that when you talk about MGs in the 5 or 10 or 15 grand, and I used to give this lecture called the 4 things your lawyer negotiated on matter, and one of them is the MG, because if you can get a $500,000 MG because you're making a profit, or because it's big enough to pay back your bank because you have a loan or whatever it is, then it makes sense. What I don't understand that why would filmmaker for a $5,000, the difference between a 10 and a 15,000 MG, will shoot themselves in the foot and go with a less experienced distributor or an aggregator that basically put up 100 movies a month, not going to give them the time or the attention, or get a worse deal, for something like that. I think that too much, and a lot of lawyers and reps get into it, but they really look at the difference of a 5% commission or a 10 grand in MG. And for me, I think it's nitpicky and wrong, because you probably want to look at the other films that the company is putting out and get recommendations and referrals from other filmmakers that worked with them, and choose the company like that, because that $5,000 is not going to change your life, right? I mean, it's not going to be a big difference.
Exactly. And I think a lot of times filmmakers, fight for that. Like I was at AFM this last year, and filmmaker came up, is like, oh, I got a $35,000 MG. I'm like, great. How much did your film cost? It goes with $350. And they were super excited. Like that was a win for them. Like they were like, we arrived. And I go, what did you give away for the $35,000? They're like, oh, worldwide. I'm like, you gave away worldwide for $35,000, and yet your film cost $350. Do you understand that you're never going to probably see anything more than the $35,000, if you even get the $35,000?
Yeah, if you get it right.
That's one thing, is to write down you're going to get $35,000, and once the movie, then it's a whole other, because it's generally, they don't just write a check and throw $35,000 down. They generally partial it out over quarters and over a year or two or something like that. Even Netflix pays out every quarter, and they don't just write a fat
when
check.
You deliver, there is, you don't have a QC, you don't have any insurance. Well, we can provide that and deduct it from the MG, and suddenly 35 become 28.
Oh yeah, and then like, oh, you need closed captioning. Yeah. Closed captioning is going to cost you $10 a minute.
Exactly.
But this is the game. You're walking into kind of shark infested waters. And if you're not educated, like I consult filmmakers all the time that have that are going into a distribution deal, and then I'll tell them what to ask for. And the distributor a lot of times will go, yeah, no, you're asking way too many questions. We don't want to deal with you, because they're just like, oh, this guy's going to be a headache because he knows too much.
Yeah. Well, it depends. You speak with companies, especially aggregators and companies. It's just on a volume base. And for them, it's all about getting a lot of movies and getting the minimum out, right? So if a movie on average, just any film, basically a poster and a file that you're going to put up, going to make a 5 to 10 grand. If you're taking even a 10% commission, but you have a 10 grand in a marketing fee of some sort, you're taking the first $10,000 or $11,000. So it really doesn't matter to you, right? So people can come out and have, my lawyer pushed them down to 10% or pushed them down to 5%. Can push them down to 1%. I look at some of those deals and I go like, you can give them 99% commission. It doesn't matter. It's like you're not going to see $1. Right. So why are you guys negotiating those things? Right. So I would prefer to have a deal that is a straight revenue share, but actually work with people that I trust and have a plan, have a strategy, have a festival strategy, have a marketing strategy, have a press and release strategy, and not just have another movie that just go into the system because to feed the 40
beast.
Employees. Yeah, right. To feed the beast, they just need to have 20 movies coming every month. They have a guy sitting in a cubicle just making posters, and nobody really gives it any attention, and nobody talks with the producers.
Can I ask you, I mean, you've been in the business so long, and you've been in the distribution side for such a long time. Why is this system built this way? It's obviously a broken system. And it's a system that is definitely not set up for filmmakers, and it's definitely not set up for the producer. It's been that way, and I've been saying that since the days of Chaplin. Like it's a systemic problem. Whereas as I used to say, like, the casting couch was a thing that was before Me Too. It was a thing. People were like, oh yeah, it's the casting couch. It was a joke. It was a punchline. And when it shouldn't have been. And now, how many times have you heard, oh, the distributor screwed me? Like, that's just, Forrest Gump didn't make money according to Paramount. Like, are you seriously made 670, won the Oscar. But according to their accounting, it didn't. Why is it like this? And what do you think?
I think there are many reasons. Obviously, one of them is what you just spoke. You were just talking about. You're correlating the value, i.e., the MG or the revenue, to the budget. There is no correlation, right? I mean, you can make Paranormal Activity for a few thousand and it has a lot of value in the marketplace, or you can spend $100 million on a movie and it just nobody wants to see it, right? And I think that there is a lot of expectation and unrealistic expectations in term, and I'm going to flip it around on you because I know it's easy to kind of bust the distributors, but I think filmmakers have a lot of
delusions of grandeur. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So you see movies that I swear to God, I mean, I get so many emails with, anything from an idea to scripts to complete movies. And you see some movies that are unwatchable. I mean, we both know that today everybody has, this iPhone has 4 cameras on it, right? I mean, it's like, it's fairly simple just to make something, right? And people truly, I mean, it's hard to it's sometimes astonishing me every time, again, like people think like, we're going to win an Oscar with this. And it's like, win an Oscar? Like, yes. I don't see like your parents sitting through 5 minutes of this, So there is matter of delusion on one side, right? And like and when you talk to people, it's like, well, we need distribution. We just like, okay, but you need to understand, like you're going to, to put something on iTunes going to cost you $850. It's not going to make $850, right?
Right.
And that's the cost. That's not, the distributor pocketing. This is the lab, just the cost of, you need to pay people to
aggregate
put the files in.
It's a cost of aggregation. Yeah.
Yeah. And when that happened and they insist on getting the movie out there and let's put it in as many screens as we can. Let's put it everywhere. And they don't make money. Of course, they blame the distributor. And I always like to say, it's like I never heard a director saying, oh, my movie turned out shit, but thank God for the distributor to do such killer marketing and
you never heard that
movie.
You never hear that. But that happens. That does happen.
It's probably happened more often than not, right? Because the marketing should be better than the movie. If the marketing is not better than the movie, then the marketing is not good, right?
Right.
So I think it's a lot of that side, and because of it, there is a lot of competition on the distribution side that encourage bad behavior, right? So if I see a movie that I really think fits the audience that I know how to reach, and I come like, listen, we release one movie a month on a busy month, right? We do one or every month or two we put everything behind it. We speak every week with the producers. We do all of this. We have all this relationship, but I'm gonna lose this title because an aggregator offered $10,000. It's not really encouraging good behavior from side of the distributors, right? So, like you say, like people read books and they listen to podcasts and like, oh, I have this list of demands to give, but it's really on a case-to-case basis, and you need to be open-minded to what's best for your specific film, right? And to find the right home, and not just like, okay, well, these offer $10,000, these offer 15, these offer 0, this is distribution fees are 10%, this distribution fees are 30%. It's like, hey, if Lionsgate want to release your movie and they're taking 60% distribution fee, give it to Lionsgate. They're going to be much better than an aggregator that's going to do it for 10%. Because they're not going to make it, right? And people sometimes, they don't just think business-wise. They don't think like, hey, if we take this consultant that can help us and they take 10%, like, do you think that our advice for 10% will generate for you at least 10% and $1 more than without it? Because then it's worth it. It's sometimes people afraid to kind of spare the wealth, and they're kind of holding for themselves, everything, but making the pie very small instead of, taking on partners, giving pieces, giving the incentive. Oh, it's funny, like how a lot of lawyers and producer reps, there's so much beat the sales agents or the distributors to lower their commissions and their sales and the distribution fee. And I think like, if you give me a film and you beat me down to a 20% distribution fee, right? And I can't, and you cap my marketing, I can't put Facebook ads, I can't do anything, right? I can't cut my own trailer, I can't put my own poster. And then I have another movie that I get 35%, and I can actually, have a budget up to $100,000 that I can put Facebook ad and such. And the filmmakers are totally open to cut new trailers and new posters and testing the market and see, how to reach the audience the best possible. Who do you think is going to get more love and attention and resources, right? Mm-hmm. It's not going to be the movie that the lawyer beat you down for a greater deal, So the deal itself is like such a small part, I think, from the success of your film, but really it's what a lot of people focusing on. They're running at AFM. In the end, meeting in the lobby, it's like, oh, what offers we got? Well, it was 35 for worldwide from this company, or this company just going to do a really good job and it only want US. Screw that company. I want the $35,000, right?
But the thing is, that what you're saying works with the assumption that the distributor that you're talking about is honest, actually cares, and actually is going to do what they say they're going to do. In your case, I get it, because you do have a fairly stellar reputation, other than the people that you burn the bridges with, in the business. But you're a unicorn in this space. You are definitely the outlier in the distribution space. So yes, I get what you're saying, but if you're going with a company that's doing 30 or 40 movies a month, that doesn't apply. That logic that you just laid out has no relevance in it, because they're just a machine. They're just a machine with a pipeline, like you said, and they're just trying to grab as much content as they can just to spit it out and hoping that something that they threw against the wall sticks that month that can pay their overhead, essentially. And now they have a larger library, and there's all other reasons why they do that kind of stuff. But what you're saying makes perfect sense for someone like you. And I'm sure there are, and I know there are other good distributors out there. but they're rare. They're rare.
Well, first of all, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate that. I'm sure there are many people that do distribution the right way, and it's really a matter of finding the right home for each film.
Right.
I do agree, and this is how the conversation started, that maybe a lot of distributors start with an elitist, theory of how to do this, but because of the reasons we just spoke about, their business model keep changing into the, fuck it, we have to make money. Let's just give them what they want, and we'll just scheme off the top to make up for it, right? And I've seen that happen before. So it's important to have good relationship with your distributor. And also, again, this goes back to your expectation. For some movies, I was talking on the phone just yesterday with a filmmaker that has a film that was actually stuck with a company that got acquired by a company, acquired by a company that got stuck in the Alchemy bankruptcy, right? Mm-hmm. So he's about to get his movie back, but, the movie's, 7-10 years old. And he was asking me, what to do with it? And my advice was, see if you can keep it to wisdom, and build a system that you actually can make your percentages as a producer, but not necessarily every movie it makes sense to go out and do everything that I say. Some of the movies, like, hey, you made a movie, it was a good exercise. The best that you got from this movie was your experience and some relationships. Give it to an aggregator, put it out there, try to do some, friends and family, marketing, but just keep it out there for a calling card and work on your next one, because this one is not going to make you rich. You spend 50 or 100. Mm-hmm. It is what it is.
And it's 7 years old. And it's 7 years old. Yeah. And it's like,
it could be also a new movie. You see a lot of movies. It's like, it's congratulations. You made a movie. Movie can be nice. Movie can be even really good, but it could be the wrong genre. If you made a drama that has no cast in it and you didn't get into festivals because you made a mistake or whatever the reason is, you didn't have the relationship to get into the right festivals. It's so easy for us as filmmakers because we create content that is both a product, right? We just make potatoes, but it's also our children, right?
Yeah.
And you always have this forces pulling you in both sides. And I think that when you make a movie, treat it like your child, right? When you deal with the initial, the sales, the strategy of it, you need to treat it like a child. But then you need to put it on the other side and start thinking like the audience and start thinking like, okay, well, who wants to buy these potatoes? And, where should I put them? And a lot of time it will give you a better path to what you need to do. And sometimes, you make a move for $100,000. And that was the cost of going to school of how to do it right. People go to law school or medical school and spend $500,000 to get to the craft to the point that they can actually work on patients, right? It's like, why is it so easy to be a filmmaker, right? It's like, I watched a lot of movies and I know where Starbucks is, so I'm a writer. You're not. You need to write 25 unsuccessful, shitty scripts until you start getting it, and if you write one and you just keep knocking on doors for 10 years, just keep beating people with this first script, you're probably not going to make it happen, because right. You need to practice your craft. So, and then there is just an unfortunate thing. I released a film many years ago. That was a great film, really well done, relatively, modest, but, real budget with millions, not thousands. It had good cast that, if I tell you the cast, you will recognize all the names. But because of a mistake that the filmmakers didn't know, they opened in a very, very small festival just because it was the same town where the investors live.
Sure.
So they opened over there. And the movie could have been easily a Sundance movie. But when you start in a very small festival, you don't get into other ones. And for a film that could have been in Sundance and maybe get a theatrical release and everything, you just kind of have to put it out there and, rely that the level of cast and the story and the trailer and the poster will draw some of the money back, but you can turn the wheel back and do a premiere in Sundance and get your theatrical release. And it's not always the distributor's fault, right? I mean, yes, a lot of distributors, they inaccessible, Some of them lie, some of them cheat. Some of them just do a deal that you don't realize. Like I've seen agreements that just as I'm going to try to censor or redact it, but as a recent example, so I haven't done it in a while because of COVID, although I need to start doing it virtually. But last year I started something I called the Entertainment Free Clinic. So one Friday every month, I would sit in a coffee shop and I had meetings with filmmakers that just needed help, that needed to look at their reports, need to look at their agreement, co-production, really anything besides pitching me. I was very clear. It's like, this is not a place for you to just come and pitch me the movie, but I can maybe help you with your pitch to other people or general career advice. A lot of people come to me with basically a report and say, they're stealing from me, I don't know where, and when you have experience, I've been because I'm a data guy. I keep everything in Excel. I did over 6,800 licensing deals. So at this point, I can look very quickly on your agreement and see like, okay, well, here is the pitfalls. Here is probably where they're gonna, hide the money. Or I can look at reports, and because the name of the distributors or the broadcaster, you can kind of put together like, okay, well, it doesn't make sense. The RTL2 in Germany would buy this action movie with a face and would pay only 15,000 euros. It doesn't happen, So, you get to a mode that you can very quickly kind of like, this is the places that you should look at. Not being a lawyer, not, following up like it's their job to, do something with this information. But I saw from a filmmaker that showed me an agreement, and he keeps saying that this is a non-exclusive agreement. This is a non-exclusive agreement. But I'm looking at the agreement and I keep telling him, like, he keeps saying it's non-exclusive. But if you read the document, it says non-exclusive at one point, but 3, clauses below, it gives them the option and all those kind of things that, like, you're locked for, like, forever with all rights, with them. Like, you need to...
Was it in perpetuity?
It was... I tried to think. I think the option was in perpetuity.
Jesus.
So basically, like, there was a very elaborate legal language that gave them an option to do what they want forever, and the filmmaker had to jump through hoops to get it out. And this is something like so it's fairly easy for an acquisition person to use phrases like, you can get out whenever you want, you can do this, but it's like, if you build your contract that it's on the filmmaker back to chase the distributor to get out of the deal, then they just don't respond to you and you're stuck with them, right? So it's not like, okay, well, let's have a renewal if you make a request to me 90 days in advance and I confirm it. Or it could be automatically if I receive at least $10,000 a year of residual.
Performance clause.
Exactly. So there is ways to do it. So if it's automatically terminated, it's automatically terminated. But there is the film that it's acquaintance of ours from Israel that it's been released, didn't do anything. The company basically retitled it and everything. And, their agreement expired, right? According to the agreement, it's expired. And they came to me and we said, great, let's help you put it up on some platforms. Let's bring it back to the original name and, revamp the poster and, give it life and make it available. But the distributor keeps it available on their iTunes and their channels, right? So, the agreement expired, but now you still need to chase the distributor
to get the rights
to take
back.
it out.
Yeah.
And if you think that you can email iTunes and tell them, oh, by the way, company ABC is no longer going to have the rights. Can you please, from January 1st, send them the
I'm sure
money
they'll be very
to
helpful.
company,
very helpful.
CDE. That's not going to happen. iTunes is like, well, they're not going to answer the email, but, you can understand that they cannot do anything about it. And a lot of those companies, when you sign the agreement, the filmmakers, whoever is signing the deal, basically take the liability that there is an issue with copyright or with the chain of title. So they don't care, right? So literally, I can take your movie. Let's say I talk tomorrow with Netflix, right? and I'm like, oh, I have this really great movie, produced by my friend Alex. I can sell it to them. I can sell an agreement. They're not going to call you to check that, hey, did Shaked actually
have the rights?
Is he your rep? Does he have the rights? They're going to do some chain of title, but how easy it is for me to just like draft something and say that I have the rights or forge your paper. Like, think about when you buy a house, how many hoops you go, right? To go through, to do a title search, and title insurance.
My God, the amount of paperwork that you have to sign and get notarized and look.
And you need to get insurance for that. It's like the bank, you will get a refinance on a house that you're already paying a bank for 10 years, and they will have you repay and redo title insurance, right? For a refi that you're paying them for 10 years, right? And there is a reason for that, right? Because technically, especially when you talk about, forget about it. Netflix is sophisticated. It's American. They have legal team, blah, 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 blah. What if I sell your company for India or Thailand?
Oh, forget it.
Right? Do you really think they're going to be a lot of
recourse? You have no
homework.
recourse. Yeah, you have no recourse.
None of them is going to do enough homework to see if Alex actually gave me the rights. And also, there is no recourse. You want to go and change the company in Thailand? I mean, maybe Netflix, at least, you can talk with a friend of a friend that maybe has somebody in the legal department, right? But what are you going to do if it's a deal in Taiwan or Colombia? It's going to cost you $20,000 just to retain some lawyer in that country to, it just doesn't worth it, right? I mean, if it's $1 million deal in Netflix, in the US or Germany or a country that is more organized, you'll go, okay, well, there is $1 million on the line. Let's get a lawyer and do something. But for $5,000 in Turkey,
and that's $5,000 in the distributor's pocket. That
I found once, and there was a reason why I said Turkey, a company based in Argentina that they were pretending, I guess, or saying that they're a company that's buying for Argentina. I think they were based in Argentina. Basically took my entire catalog.
Took your entire catalog.
My entire catalog, changed the logo, and send it to buyers in Turkey to sell. No, I'm sorry. That was a Turkish guy based in Argentina. I'm so sorry. Mm-hmm. It was a Turkish guy based in Argentina that he took my catalog and he sent it all over the place trying to sell the movies, right? And I had my French client that bought the film sending me an email furious saying, how come, you have your guys trying to sell your movie in France? I bought the movie over a year ago. I have exclusive rights. And I'm like, don't bark at me. I have no idea who this guy is. And then he helped me because I told him, like, hey, can you, we tried to almost put a trap.
Yeah, catfish him. You were catfishing him. You're catfishing him.
We're trying, yeah. So I had my distributor, and luckily I had the relationship with the guy for, years. So, I could smooth it over, and then it's like, listen, let's do a trick. Let's ask him about some of the rights, and let's see if we can get links for him, ask for screeners, and ask for numbers. Let's see what happens. And the guy, from what I remember, was so, I guess he just does it, and he's so clueless or lazy or he never really followed up. But a lot of people can do that. They're just in a different country, just like in YouTube, that people just steal your movie and just put it. And now it's only your responsibility to go and chase it, right? And you need to spend money on lawyers. You need to spend your own time. You need, to use your contacts to try to chase somebody in a different country. They're just representing your movies without any legal control over it. So I have no idea how we got into it, but I have a million of I have all these scars from different places that
you have shrapnel, sir. I like to call it shrapnel. You have tons of shrapnel in the business.
Yeah. I mean, that's what was the question, but the answer is yes.
Yes. It's fascinating. It's fascinating to hear a story like that where a distributor is being stolen from by some other schlocky, guy, some thief. And that's an amazing story. I can't believe that that's a thing, but it is. And I was talking to a filmmaker the other day, and they were like, yeah, we have this deal on the tail. This guy in, either France or in the UK or Spain he was a sales agent over there, and he wanted to get the European rights or something like that. And I'm like, well, first of all, have you done your homework? Have you vetted them? And then you have to ask yourself the question, if things go bad, what recourse do you have? Are you flying to Spain to fight this guy? Are you hiring an attorney? So, at least here in the States, you can have some sort of legal, you can sue somebody here. But if they're in the UK, the cost to try to sue somebody in the UK to get the rights back for your film is astronomical. Again, if there's $1 million on the table, like you said, then there's some point. But if it's, 10 grand here, 15 grand there, and your movie costs 100 grand, you can't afford that. And these distributors know that. They know that they have, especially the larger predatory distributors. There's a lot of these low level kind of bottom dwellers who they do this stuff and they're like, what are you going to do? Sue me? And if you actually sue them and you actually take them to court and everything, they'll just go, oh, sorry, our bad. Here's the money. Yeah. And you've already spent, it cost you 100,000 to get 40.
Yeah.
So
it's you're 100% right. And you need to be very careful. And I think, again, a part of it, I don't think that people, you will never hear me so optimistic. I don't think people get born just evil like that. No. Mm-hmm. Nobody at their 18-year-old, with 2 suitcases, I'm going to move to Hollywood and steal money from the other people.
Yeah,
But I think that the business is so tough and there's so little money in it. The value of when a value of a $5 million movie is about 120 grand in the marketplace, right? And that's need to cover trailer makers, poster makers, dubbers, delivery people, sales agent,
QC,
your manager. Yeah. I mean, I can just, so many people with the handout, everybody just fighting over, like sharks, just trying to fight over those pieces of meat. And I think that's created a situation. And unfortunately, a lot of people, there are a distributor in France and they go to a lot of markets and maybe some French friend give them their movie and say, hey, you travel to Cannes and AFM, can you help me to sell it internationally? And maybe they sold a few territories and saw that it's valuable. So now they're also a sales agent. I mean, if you look at Sinando or one of those sites or, the AFM listing, it's like everybody's a foreign sales agent. If you have an email and a pulse, you're a foreign sales agent, right? Because it's so easy to say that you are, right?
Sure.
And just collect movies. And maybe you have a relationship in 1 or 2 territories, but if I signed your movie and I just sold Middle East and UK and everything else is, remain unsold, it's a problem, and you're leaving a lot of money on the table. And a lot of it, I think, it's for necessities because you can't make enough money as a producer. So you start getting into, distribution. You don't make enough money as distribution. We have opportunities to start getting into foreign sales. A lot of people, I think, they go, like I said before, that it's a disease. Like, please, if there's anything to take from this conversation, don't be sucked into the best deal. The numbers not telling the whole story, right? So if there is a distributor or a sales agent, it's like, hey, we're just going to take 10, 15%. If it's too good to be true, it's probably because it's not true, right? It's like there is no reason for me to take a movie for domestic for less than 25 or 35%. Because I need to pay my people, I need to pay, the expenses, and I need it to be worthwhile for me to work, right? So if somebody offer you 10%, there's something wrong with it. There's something wrong with that deal. And then you get companies like Deceiver, right? They just offer a deal that's too good to be true, and then everybody gets sucked into it, and then it blows up in their faces.
The thing is that a lot of these distributors, there isn't a lot of money in the marketplace. And that's the other thing that filmmakers don't understand. Their film is not worth what they think it's worth as a product. And if you're looking at it as a business, there is a value associated with a film. And it's also not only the value of the film, but the time that it gets released. So Big Ass Spider, which is an amazing poster that you have behind you, in 2008 is worth a lot more than Big Ass Spider in 2020 in the marketplace. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. I mean, unlike, fine wine, they don't get better in time. It's rare to have movies like Pretty Woman or, Evergreen.
Oh, yeah. Like Jurassic Park just became the #1 movie the other day in the theaters.
And Jennifer Aniston is still probably making $14 million a year based on Friends,
Sure.
But that's an exception to the rule. that's not if you listen to this podcast,
Yeah. I'm
you're
assuming.
probably not in that boat yet. I'm not in that boat yet.
I'm Scrooge McDucking it all the time. I have a whole pit of gold coins. I just swim in it every day. I do a dive and it's very nice. I have a little board and everything.
Yeah, but we touch a lot of important thing to note, which is, dealing with the deal, know your film and know your product and what is the actual value and what is the potential. I think that a question that I always ask, and I love to ask it when I have everybody in the room, and I have the investors, the executive producers, and directors, what is their goal?
Yeah.
Because, of course, everybody's goal is to do as many festivals, to make as much money,
Sure.
and to be as many theaters, and to, it's like, you can't, right? If the goal is to try to get awards and be in festivals and all that kind of stuff, that's one thing. If you're trying to make money, you probably just want to get it on VOD and focus on that. If you want to be in theaters because that's good for the director's career, it's all conflicting interest. And you have to be, as a team, realistic about what is your end goal. Because when you ask these questions, almost every time everybody wants everything, and then you have to have this conversation, and then slowly you hone down on what is the actual strategy for the film. The second thing is this linear mode of thinking that a lot of filmmakers learn from out of nowhere, which is you make a movie, you go to a festival, you get a producer rep, the producer rep places you in a sales agent, the sales agent sells it to the distributor gives it to the aggregator. It's a horrible model. You want to have some idea and some plan of what you want the movie to be so you can back engineer your release. And I always say that it's like the whole, and it's fun because you contact movies that just got in South by or just got in Sundance, and you say, congratulations, can you send me a link? And like, no, I want you to see it in Sundance. It's like, well, that's going to be too late for me. Sorry, because I want to be in Sundance with a PR team interviewing the director and the cast, promoting the movie. So when you have your 15 minutes in the limelight, I want the director to be able to say in an interview, we're coming out 2 months from now in March or April. Please check it out on your, nearest drive-in or, speeding to the time. Or we're going to be exclusively on iTunes in July 15. Make sure to, mark it on your calendar. You don't want to spend all, because you can only release the trailer once. You can only release the poster once. You can only break the reviews once. Variety is not going to run a review on your movie after 25 small blogs wrote reviews based on a small festival that nobody heard of.
Right,
so you kind of have to come up with a splash, and you want in the end of the review saying, Indie Film Hustle taking it out on iTunes only July 15th. Because otherwise people read a review, go like, whoa, sounds amazing. And they're not going to remember, that's now you need to fight the fight again. So have a plan when you go into those festivals, as opposed to hoping to find the person that's going to sell it to the person that's going to sell it to the person that maybe will come up.
And you'll never make a dime. You'll never make a dime.
You can make a dime, but it's like winning the lottery. Everybody's pointing out, it's like, oh, look at this movie. Like, I want to make a comedy. A comedy was sold for $8 million in Sundance. Okay, what about the 399 other movies that you never heard of? Right?
It's actually 30,000 other movies you didn't hear of. It's not even 399. And that's something that, by the way, I want to talk to you later about releasing the Indie Film Hustle, the movie. I'll have to write it, and we have to do that. I don't know what that is yet, but I'm sure there's a vegan chef in there somewhere. I think the main problem with the filmmaking business model, especially the independent filmmaking business model, is that a film does not, if you buy a house, you make a house for $250,000, the marketplace will value that house. If it's a new construction, depending on the neighborhood you build it in, then you're going to get $400,000. You might get $500,000. And that works in real estate. If you're going to buy, if you're going to sell, like I used to sell back in the day, I had an olive oil company, where I sold bottles of olive oil and balsamic vinegar. There's a cost per bottle, and the marketplace will determine what that bottle is worth. Generally speaking, I knew that I was going to cover the cost at very bare minimum of the manufacturing of that product. In the filmmaking world, there is nothing, you can't do that. Like if you make $1 million, there's no guarantee. You can make $1 million piece of crap that is worth $5 in the marketplace, and that's mom renting it. She won't even purchase it. She's just renting it. It's a $5 rental. Yeah, she doesn't. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I always recommend to filmmakers, especially if they're not savvy about the marketplace, keep the budgets as low as possible while retaining the highest possible viable product. So if you can make a film for $50,000 that has some sort of viability in the marketplace, great. But I don't want you spending $300,000 on that same movie. Because the chance, the higher that budget goes, the less chance you have to recoup your money. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, well, you touch a lot of points. I was writing them down so I don't forget.
Yeah.
Yes, it's first of all, it's a true statement, and I will start backwards. Just that's something you just said. The thing about making the movie for $30,000 or $3,000, I mean, obviously, it's not brain surgery, right? If I offer you the same, if you can buy an iPhone at the iPhone store for $700, or you can buy it at a different store for $400, why would you buy it for more, right? So you need to be economical about the way you're making them. But one thing that I really would like for everybody listening to this and everybody from your tribe, right? I don't want ever in my life to hear again, my movie looks like I'm so tired of like, well, we made it for $100,000, but it looks like
it's $100,000, but it looks like 1.5.
Everybody's movie look more than the budget. All right, nobody walks into my office and say, oh, we made it for $1 million, but it kind of looks like $500,000. Okay, that's not a selling point. Right. Netflix will not put on the poster, directed by Alex Ferrari, but it looks much better than the budget. It's not a selling point to anyone. The budget, right. the moment you lock the film past QC, the budget is irrelevant. Okay, right. The budget is relevant only to you and the investors and your family that put money in it and all that kind of stuff. Now you can maybe talk with other producers about your next film, right? And say like, look, here is this film. What do you think? I made it for $100,000. You want me to work with you? I can bring some money. I'm raising money. Like that's fine. But to sell that movie, that's not a selling point, right? Well, to sell yourself as a filmmaker.
But I think that's a holdover from the '90s with Robert Rodriguez when it started with the $7,000. That was a marketing thing back then. I know, but that was, and it was a big deal to make a feature film for $7,000 in 1991. And then Clerks with another one was the $30,000, and then it was all about the cheapest movie.
But the potatoes, right? Think about the potatoes, right? My wife or any girlfriend or anything in the past never, looked on Rotten Tomato or a newspaper, if people remember what that is, and said, honey, let's go this weekend to watch so-and-so movies because I heard it was made for cheap. It just makes the movie cheap, right?
But that marketing ploy doesn't work. And I have filmmakers all the time that reach out to me to be on the show. They're like, man, we made a movie for $30,000. I'm like, that's not enough, dude. This is not 1990 anymore. It's not enough. I made a movie for $3,000, and and I got it released. Like it's not enough anymore.
It works when you after the fact, right? If you say, listen, we made Paranormal Activity for $8,000 and it made $200 million at the box office. Okay, now you can talk about it, right? But
because it's a selling point at that point. Yeah,
it's because you already proven yourself, right? But just to say that you made a movie for $30,000. Doesn't mean anything. But I think the point, we made a point. Second thing, let's talk about comps, right? Because you're talking about market value. And,
yes.
And I'll give as an example. I'll never forget. It's one of the examples I use. I got a PowerPoint presentation, somebody trying to, like always trying to get you to finance their film. It was a zombie movie, for whatever, $300,000 or $500,000. I don't remember exactly the budget. But they had all these comps saying like how zombies are hot in the market right now. And they had a poster of World War Z and it says, how much
had Brad Pitt in it. And Brad Pitt in it.
And this is what we talk about comps, right? When you're in real estate,
Right.
When you're trying to sell your house,
Yes.
your realtor or your appraiser look at similar neighborhood, similar square footage, similar number of bedrooms and bathrooms, right?
Yes,
And then
yes.
if it's something special about it, pool, no pool, whatever, right?
Yeah.
They're not just like, oh, I'm trying to sell my house, in nowhere by Bakersfield, and there is a condo in New York that costs $150 million, so I want $150 million, right? Woodward Z is based on a book,
That was huge.
translated for 7,000 languages, right? And it has Brad Pitt. It's like how
is that a thing?
made money for Woodward Z was not that it has zombies in it, right? It is not a comp for your $300,000 film,
Right.
And I think that's what you're talking about, of how people try to figure out what is the value in the marketplace, right? And especially these days, and this is a very important concept, right? Not so long time ago, when there was a DVD market,
Oh,
and
the
let's
good old
put
days.
theatrical on the side.
Yeah.
When there was a DVD market, you had a sliding scale, right? So a distributor had a team of people in suits that had to walk from one mom and pop rental shop to another, or ones that had 5 branches in Wisconsin, right? And show them the catalog for what's coming out next quarter, and literally get orders, right? They had purchase orders like, oh, we're going to take 10 from this movie, we're going to take 50 from this movie, we're going to take 1 from that movie, right? Because the rental places knew their market and blah blah blah, and all those purchase orders come in, and it will make 100,000 copies of your movie and ship them everywhere, which made a lot of work for the distributor, right? But it meant that some movies can sell 0, some 10,000, some 100,000, some 1 million. Like, you had gray area, right? When you don't have that market, and basically your movie either sell to Netflix for $500,000 or they pass on it, right?
And
Netflix don't say, oh, we'll buy your movie, but just for 1 week for $25,000, right? They either cough the money, do it right, or
It's
they
black
say
and
no,
white.
right?
It's black and white.
Yeah. If you sell to Redbox, they either buy 40,000 units and you get $80,000 or whatnot, or it's 0. They're not like, oh, we're going to buy it just for, 5 locations by 7-Eleven, right? And that's true to almost everything. Like, you have a very binary kind of system right now that it's either yes or no, right? So when you look at the value of the marketplace, people's like, oh, what do you think is the value? So you can't really say a lot, because it's like, okay, well, on the VOD side, transactional, which is a shrinking business.
It's almost shrunk.
Every moment that we speak, it's like a frightened turtle. Just
It's like another fairy loses their wings every second that we speak.
Exactly. By the time we finish this conversation, it's going to be smaller, right? So, you can say, okay, on a good day, you can generate 150 on transactional for this movie. On a bad day, it's going to be 15, right? It's a range. But then it's like, well, if Redbox is going to take it or not, depends on how many copies they're going to take. It's going to be another 50 to 100 or 0, right? If Netflix is going to take it, it's going to be another 150 or 300 or 0, right? So you can make that. But when you look at that range, you end up with like a range between 15,000 and a lot of zeros, right, to making $1 million, right? And a lot of time people kind of like just do the middle ground and say like, oh, so we're probably going to generate $500,000. Usually it doesn't work like that. When Biggest Spider, you mentioned behind me, when it it went to South by Southwest, and it got a lot of buzz, and we sold first run to Sci-Fi Channel, and then we sold Netflix, and then usually you sell to everybody when they want it, and 0 when they don't. It's rare that you break out so much on one side and the other side it just and you kind of average in the middle, right? So
you hit a home run or you strike out.
Exactly. So your expected return is not $500,000.
Yeah, I think the analogy is you either strike out or you get a home run, because there is no, with Netflix it's like, oh, I hit a double. No, they're either going to give you the home run or they're not going to let you even get up to bat.
Exactly.
Is essentially it.
And when you speak with, companies like Apple or Amazon, they want to acquire all rights worldwide. They don't want, they're not just buying UK and testing the water, right? Right. They either go all in, they need to translate it to 25 different languages, and they need to put dubbing for another 70 languages or whatnot, so there is people. This is another thing that kind of connect to what you're asking me about, like why everybody hate the distributor. People don't realize the cost of the distribution, right? People don't realize it's like, oh well, Netflix is just a file. It's like Netflix, in order to serve the world, they need to have redundancy of servers, right? So if you and I watch the movie from Los Angeles, it comes from a server farm that is, nearby, probably somewhere, a little bit north to here. If you're watching it in New York, it's from somewhere else, right? Because you're not showing a movie for friends from the LA. So there is a lot of storage costs and a lot of,
infrastructure.
It's not like printing DVDs. It's not like, making film prints, but there are costs to it. There is a cost for distribution. And if you ask me like, hey, just put my movie out, and I need to have your file serving Vimeo, whatever it is, for the next 10 years, just to generate $50 a month, it might not be worth it, especially if you're trying to push me to just take 10% distribution fee, right? I mean, just think about it. If your movie is 7 years old or whatever, or new, but it's just very niche, and you're going to make $50 a month, and you want me just to make $5 off of it, it just doesn't worth the fees that you pay to Vimeo for your pro account for the terabytes that you need to hold those movies, right?
Right. Now,
and that's why you start cherry picking.
So would you agree that, I've been saying this for a while now, is that there is a devaluation of media in our business? So the value that was associated to a film, like we were talking about in DVD, there used to be a cost involved. There used to be, that value was $20 to get a Blu-ray, or $25 to get a Blu-ray, or $10 for a DVD. And before that and after that, there was TVOD that actually was TVOD because it was kind of like a holdover generation from DVD. So we were still used to renting things. Streaming wasn't completely 100% just there yet as far as SVOD is concerned, but it's slowly being whittled down to now Amazon's paying you a penny per hour streamed. This is exactly what happened in the music industry, where a song used to be $20 because you had to buy an album to get the song you wanted, or you would wait at the radio to bootleg it off the radio when they played it. With the DJ, you were hoping the DJ never spoke while you're in the middle of the song. But there is that,
just like holding,
you're just like
with the finger on the tape recorder, right?
You were just like boom, and you go. And I know a lot of people are like, "What is he talking about with this tape recorder? And what is the radio?" But there is a devaluation with the film, with the marketplace of media. So when a filmmaker shows up with a $300,000 horror movie, let's say, or a rom-com that has nobody in it, and they expect to put it out into that marketplace, the value's not there unless you have a Netflix deal, a Redbox deal, selling different foreign territories that can kind of take off, start, cutting into the budget a little bit and start paying yourself back. But there's a devaluation. Do you agree in general?
Not only agree, there was actually a lecture I gave a few times about the valuation of content. So just do a little correction to what you said. The media is actually very valuable, and it's enough to look at the value of Netflix, the value of companies like Amazon.
The companies
it's the content, the media, the distribution has a lot of value. It's the content that basically, I think we live in a world where the content is as least valuable as possible. And it's to remember that when you come out as a filmmaker or as a content creator, let's just jump because you created content right now, right?
Right.
You basically fighting for attention, right? The attention of the people. And if a video of a cat or somebody dancing on TikTok entertain thousands or millions of people for millions of hours, it doesn't matter that you worked on your podcast for so hard, or somebody worked on their movie for 5 years and spent $2 million. It's entertainment, right? So your entertainment is equal to playing Fortnite. It's equal to going to a concert, equal to other things. And you need to think about the value and the utilities that you get from it. And in the lecture that I give about the value of content, I always start with a picture from 1300, of a banquet, and it's like, what is this? Anybody knows what is this? This is like the original, iPod, right? And just to, I'll try to condense, an hour into a few minutes. But if you think about how we used to have entertainment, right? If you want to have entertainment in the old days, you had to have a castle, and you had to have a lot of fancy friends, and you need to have a big enough castle to have like a piano room, right? And you invited, Mozart or local artists to go there, and you had dinner, and you retired to that room, and they had to play live because that's all that there was there, right? And what's interesting about it is that every town had to have artists. You had to have musicians in every town playing in bars, playing in people's houses. You had to have theater houses. Like, people forget, it's like all those theater houses, you had to have actors in everywhere doing this, right? Not just New York, right? Oh, we're going to Broadway. Right. Every small town had to have entertainment because there was nothing else to do, right? If you wanted entertainment, that's what you had to do. Mm-hmm. And then to cut to the chase, radio came out. One person can, or before that, the records, record players came out, and then the radio, then the TV, then, mass media, what you mentioned, the iTunes kind of broke the bill, buy a whole record and you can just download a song, and now songs are worth 99 cents. Well, actually less because
it was 70 cents. Yeah.
And not to be too, on the details. Yeah. And we live in a world that Jennifer Aniston can make $14 million on something she made in the 90s, right? And we live in a world that we all can be entertained by Lady Gaga from a song she recorded 10 years ago. Right. And we don't need to have a singer in every town, in every place in the world, because we don't need to. We can access the best, right? So it's a winner-take-all business just for the sake of that, transition from, everybody need, to create content. By the way, I know it's like it's kind of funny to think about it, but it used to be that children learn an instrument. Everybody played an instrument because otherwise there is nothing to do. Like you would have dinner and, the daughter would go and play the piano or the violin or something. How many people and we live in one of the most creative places in the world, if not the most creative. How many people that play the violin? How many violin players?
A violinist? I don't. I know an accordionist. An accordionist I know, and a piano. I know a few piano players.
Here's your homework. Google, because I study economics and business, right? Google and try to find out what was the sales of pianos and violins from the days of the colonies to now.
Oh, I'm sure. Okay, of course.
Those things used to be households, right?
Yeah. I remember growing up, there was always even going back to the 50s, you would still, in every house, there would be that one piano in the corner. And that's what and it was still a holdover from that, even in the time of radio and television. And it's slowly down now. It's like, if you have a piano in the house, like you really must be serious about the piano, You're
weirdo, right? And now it's so funny. So you go from such a commune, expensive experience to everybody in the house hide in their own bedroom with their own iPhone or iPad or something and watch their own content and have their own entertainment. We can sit here in the living room and, I'll be on my phone. My wife is on another phone. Her younger sister, because she's a student, she's younger, she's on TikTok, like doing things that I don't even
And it's
understand.
all tailored to you by the algorithm.
Exactly. So content has very, very little value, like you said. And you need to kind of understand it. And I know that you're preaching to create more value added around it, right? And creating brands. And approaching a niche audience. So, like the T-shirt that you're wearing right now, you're wearing a Turbo Kid T-shirt. Yep. And we spoke about Turbo Kid. And we spoke about Turbo Kid in our other episode, which I'll put in the show notes. But that's a perfect example. You guys created a world around it, but it was a very specific story that appealed to a niche audience. It's a fairly large niche audience, people who like the 80s and, that kind of like Kung Fury. It hit around the same time as Kung Fury did. And it really struck a nerve in the world. And then you started building out other product lines, t-shirts, hats, and other products around it. You kind of build a world around Turbo Kid. And it's hard. Don't get me, what you did is extremely hard. It's not easy to do, and you really need to know what you're doing. That's why I lay out
how you could do things like that, even on a very small level with the film entrepreneur method that I came up with. It's doable, but it's work. And that's another thing. A lot of filmmakers, when they get to the distribution phase, they're just like, I'm exhausted. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. A lot of people don't want to do it anymore. And it's a combination of a lot of hard work, but also a lot of luck. You need to be in the right time, in the right place.
Yeah.
In this case, Turbo Kid started in Sundance, and from there, kind of blew up.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can say, well, you guys professionals, you've been doing this for a long time, you put the right team, which is all true and great, but you also have, that magic ingredient of being in the right time, in the right place. And I'm very lucky to being able to have some breakout titles like that. And it's also very important for filmmakers to let go a little bit and bring, because it's such hard work, bring partners and not be so tight with the control and precious with their money, because it is valuable to hey, this is a good PR company. Maybe instead of paying them $20,000, which we don't have, we can give them 10% of the revenue. It's worth it. By the way, I always love giving people revenue share, because then they have an incentive to do better work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so try to build a team and try to find people that know better than you, and let them do their work and compensate them for that. Let them make money from your product, right? Because then they're happy. It's a win-win. You all want to work again tomorrow and the next one. And I feel that that's another place that a lot of filmmakers, they made 2 shorts and 1 feature. And because of it, they're so sure that they know better than you and better than anybody else how the trailer is supposed to be, how the poster is supposed to be, which, where the movie's supposed to be, which festival is the best. All right, I've just been doing this for 200 times, but great. Yeah. And then they force the hands of everybody around them. And then when the movie is unsuccessful, they blame everybody else, and it's so often that you see that it's insistent of using their own trailer, their own poster, not to believe the numbers, not to do test screenings, not to do tests. I really like to do tests for the marketing, just to see which marketing works the best, not to agree to anything. And even if you do it, have all the excuses why, the numbers are wrong. And then when the movie is unsuccessful because you caved, because you don't want to argue anymore, because distributors can get tired too, right? They point of view and say we're unsuccessful because of you. And it's well, maybe we're unsuccessful because you insisted of using your friend to edit it and doing this and doing that and doing this. And, having our, if you're a distributor with both hands tied behind your back, it's really hard to generate money. And it's a shame, because you just get bad reputation, because now you have filmmakers walking around and, talking shit about how bad work you've done, and you kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
And that's why I always, anytime I tell filmmakers to actually always do your homework and go and before you sign with the distributor, talk to filmmakers who have worked with them before. Talk to that one, and don't talk to the ones that the distributor gives you. Look them up on IMDb Pro, call them up and go, what was your experience and why did that happen? And if you're a smart filmmaker, you could look at the movie. They're like, oh, they didn't know what they were doing and this and that. And then you look at the movie and go, oof, this was horrible. I mean, they did, it's a catch-22. I absolutely agree. The distributor is always going to get shit on, without question. Like you said at the beginning of this, no one ever said, oh, my movie was crap, but thank God the distributor saved it. It's the other way around. My film is genius and the distributor screwed it. That being said, it only applies to a small percentage of honest distributors, because most of them are not going to, most of them are going to screw you.
I want to point out, because you don't hear that a lot, but I'm going to repeat what you just said, because the second half of what you said is extremely important. Talk with the filmmakers and not just the director, producer, executive producers. And the second half is watch their film, because after watching it, you might feel like, they actually got pretty good press compared to what I'm seeing. You know what I mean? I always, when I buy product on Amazon or anything, I always sort to the bad reviews, and then I read why they're bad. And then a lot of time, you're trying to buy a coffee machine, and you read 10 bad reviews about like the customer service. I'm like, I'm not gonna call customer service for my coffee machine, right? So it's like it's like when people talk shit about distributor, to dig down to really what was the core of the problem. Sometimes you find out like, yeah, but that doesn't really apply to me. You know what I mean?
Right. That's smart.
And we like to have the filmmakers involved, but the filmmakers need to make it a part of the team and not force your hand into doing things, which is a shame.
Now, what are you seeing right now with COVID, man? How is COVID affecting the distribution, playing field from your point of view?
COVID is very interesting because it moved so many different levers, right? Mm-hmm. So, okay, let's talk very surface, and we can cut deeper into it.
Deeper into it.
Yes. Sorry, it's you may think it's tea, but I'm actually drinking whiskey here.
Yes.
So the obvious one is, okay, there's no physical production, right? There's no physical production, which means that 9 to 18 months in the future, there are going to be no movies, and all distributors know it, and all distributors have budget and programs, so everybody needs to have content, so they need to buy it right now, which means that content value is going to go up, right? Okay, so that's one. Other one is everybody's home. They're not spending money going to concert. They're not spending money going to theater. They're not spending money, they're just stuck at home. So everybody's signing up for Netflix, Hulu, Amazon. Everybody's upgrading the internet, maybe buying bigger TVs, adding a TV in the bedroom. Getting more base for that, which should be more money for filmmakers, maybe. Maybe it's more money for Netflix, but who knows if that trickled down. Ideally, it's supposed to, right? Because Netflix need to serve those clients and have more content. Beside that, an interesting thing that happened with COVID is that a lot of companies accelerated coming out with content because people are now at home, right? So maybe instead of spreading our content, let's release it now. So suddenly we had a surge of things coming out on digital. And let's not forget, COVID made people not work, right? So people sitting at home, so let's put our movies out on VOD because everybody wants to spend some time watching movies. Yeah, but maybe they're not going to spend $5.99 right now because there is enough movies on Disney Plus and enough movies on Hulu and Netflix that they haven't explored yet. So, and they're just like I'm throwing stuff, right? So it's economic levers that move. So how does it look for us as an indie filmmakers, right? Because if you're studio or if you're Netflix, it's definitely different things. Because we're always in the bottom, when there is no money, it's the first thing that's going to affect us because, yes, maybe people would pay $10 or $20 to see a movie that was supposed to be theatrical, and now it came out on VOD because Universal, made it go out. But still, like to pay $7.99 for that movie that was made like for $300 but looks like $1 million, that doesn't mean that they're going to spend that money, right? Because they would spend it on the Star Wars, maybe catching up with some studio movies that they haven't seen,
right?
But then for the other indie stuff, there's enough stuff on Vimeo, YouTube for free. There's enough stuff on Netflix that they haven't explored. There's enough stuff, Disney Plus came out with the whole Fox library, blah blah blah. And there's a lot of stuff that
there's so much. I'm catching up on TV shows that I've been waiting. Like I'm just cooking through seasons of it right now.
Yeah.
It's so much content. There's so much stuff to go.
So much stuff. Yeah. So what we're seeing with the movies that we're releasing, that some of them perform extremely well because they have, and this is not really changing anything in COVID. Like the movies that have audience appeal, doing extremely well in today's market. The movies that don't still don't perform, right? And that's true to any time, right? Another thing that happened is the rise of the AVOD. I think that the pandemic accelerated a lot of processes. So AVOD, everybody knew that that's going to be the next thing, but because of COVID and people saving money, they're seeking how to watch more content for free. There you go. You have Pluto, you have Tubi, you have all those. Voodoo of the AVOD side of it. So a lot of those started to actually create money for indies like us. Again, like you said, like with Amazon, they're paying about $0.01 per hour watch. It's very, very little money, right? So people talk about like, well, Toby and Pluto and start making us, AVOD start making us a lot of money. But when you ask them like how much, we're like, oh, I have titles that make, $1,000 a month. It's like, well, $1,000 a month minus 30% distribution fee, it's when you talk about a movie that costs $300,000 or $1 million to make, it's still nothing, right? But it's better. It's better than the nothing that was before. So it really depends on where you're at in the distribution level. Because a lot of our movies are new, we're not yet in the AVOD space. I'm not going to put my movies on AVOD yet. I'm going to wait for them to finish the transactional and the subscription VOD cycle before getting to that. But I heard that a lot of movies getting there, but it also creates, there is an equilibrium, and because everybody knows the Toby and Pluto and the AVOD space starting to be profitable, they have a surge of producers and distributors giving them titles, which means that now less eyeballs on each one, which will reduce the prices. There is a reason why when Amazon Prime started, it was 17 cents per hour, and now it's $1. You know why? Because it was a gold mine, and Biggest Spidey was making 5 to 10 grand a month on Amazon Prime, and a lot of us saw it and started putting more and more content on Amazon. And Amazon, they charge $100, so they know exactly $100 a year, right, for Prime.
There's like 100 and something, yeah.
They know exactly what piece they want to be spending on the Prime Video, right? So if at the beginning, when Biggest Spider just got onto it and it was relatively new, maybe there were, let's say, 100 million subscribers and they viewed 5 hours of movies a month, right? So divide the money by the 5 hours, it's a lot of money. They used to give bonuses and all that kind of stuff. But now they have 180 million subscribers that each one watch 10 hours a day during COVID of movies and TV shows. Do the numbers, it comes out to be less than a cent a person. It's not that Amazon trying to be a bad guy. They're just a business, right?
Right. And
money's just not there.
And
right?
the adoption, and anytime you're adopting a new platform, they're going to give you a lot up front to get those users to get that content. But once that's filled up, I mean, Amazon did it, Facebook did it, Twitter. I mean, they all do it. And then
Netflix bought from us, 20 movies time 50, 100 grand, that. We could have done those deals. Now you can't do it. Now they watch every movie. They cherry pick. They choose the movies that they want, and maybe they pay more for the movies that they want. But when they buy one out of 30 movies instead of half your library, you're in a very different market.
But do you think? I mean, so COVID obviously. This is what I feel that COVID is, like you said, accelerating what was going to happen in our industry anyway. But I feel that the model, the distribution model that's in place, I feel that Rome is burning. And I feel a lot of these companies are going to go under, and we still have not even touched the bottom of the economic effect of what's going on. We haven't even touched it yet. So when that happens, we're going to start seeing companies drop like flies, and a lot of filmmakers are going to lose, unless those deals are in place, they're going to lose access to their films. It's going to be a nightmare for film. And I don't want to be like, oh, the sky is falling. I'm trying to, I always say, I prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Yeah. And
I feel that that's what's going to happen with our industry. I think next year will be very telling. A lot of companies that we're seeing right now, I don't know if you're hearing it, but I'm already hearing some people like, oh, they're 3 months behind payments. Oh, they're 6 months behind payment to the producers. Yeah. Oh, it's like, and these are big companies. These are not small companies. So when I start hearing that, I'm like, oh, and so if those bigger companies are having issues, what chance does the small predatory? I mean, they're going to probably go under and take as much, as they can as they go under. What's your feeling?
Let's try to be positive for a second.
I know. Like I said, I don't want to be the Alex. Yeah, Jesus Christ, man! Please.
So I agree, and I like the back and forth because
you are the positive one all of a sudden. Generally, you're the negative one. Yeah, generally you're not. Generally, you're the doom and gloom. I'm trying to help you, sir.
The good thing about the independent is that we're small.
Yes,
we're efficient,
nimble,
we're quick, right? We're agile. So when AMC or whatever big theatrical, chains, and they need to adapt, and it takes them a long time, and they have a big machine to feed. They're in a lot more trouble than if you're a small distributor that can easily say, hey, we'll just take our 50 films, take them off Amazon, put them on Pluto, boom, make more money. It's like you can do that. In terms of production, studios and networks, yes, they have the money to spend, but when you're making movies with big stars that are afraid of COVID, and if something happens to them, they're going to owe $1 billion and blah, 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 it's very complicated for them to shoot movies. If you are an indie filmmaker that anyway shoot a movie with their few friends and, just a camera and a 6-people crew, you're a lot more agile to write a script, change a few things, make it that it's all happening in one house. Anyway, you shoot for 10 days or 12 days. It's not like you're shooting for months like studios and networks. So you can create content that's going to be needed, right? And I do think that networks and streamers and studios less, because you can't make a blockbuster from a small movie usually that just made with your friends. But some of the other ones, they are going to look for interesting, compelling storytelling that we can go out and do it. Today's Thursday. Tomorrow I'm going on a location scout with a producer friend, and the idea is he has an idea to shoot a film that's going to be an action movie, and it's just going to be 5 people, and he came up with a clever way to do it with all the COVID restrictions, and to get it done. So if he does that by February, if we shoot in the next few months, by February, April, we can have movies, ready to release. And, maybe we can actually get good numbers from Netflix or Hulu or Apple or wherever it is, because they're going to have less content, right? Mm-hmm. So I think what's interesting is from talking with my friends, the streamers, they're actually not looking for content right now, because when COVID started, they have enough liquidity and they're smart enough to basically load up with titles. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the schedules are actually already going to mid of 2021. Oh, so yeah. I know that a lot of my friends are like, it's the best time to sell a movie. It's like, how come Netflix pass on it? Well, they pass on it because they actually spent March and April and May buying so much, so they're kind of happy with their schedule.
At deal, and from what I understand, at deal prices, like Paramount or one of these big studios, they don't have any other revenue, so they're just emptying out their libraries at 25 cents to the dollar, is what I heard. So that's why all of a sudden on Netflix I started seeing huge movies from the olden days. Like they just popped up. I'm like, where do these all come from? And I'm like,
we have Back to the Future coming up to Netflix next month.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's again, all of this is good for consumer.
Oh yeah,
not the best for filmmakers. Filmmakers have the least amount of leverage. Almost anything that will happen, somehow we will pay the cost. It just is a thumb rule because we are at the bottom of the food chain. But there are good things that we can do, and if you're smart enough to write something, you can make. Right. You can make it, on the cheap, safely with COVID and all that kind of stuff. We had a production that was supposed to happen in Latin America with a fairly, big star. Impossible to get it bonded and to get it insured at the moment. So those type of movies cannot happen, right? But if you're truly indie, you can make stuff happen because anyway, it's, just you and your wife or whatever. It's not,
it's like 5 years. It's like a bunch of friends.
It's not union.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you get into union and SAG, you need to quarantine. You need to, build those rings, and all that kind of stuff that, again, we talk about. I mean, it's already been almost 2 hours, but, it's like we can talk about those things at another opportunity on the COVID productions. But one thing that I get a lot from people that I kind of want to make it clear. I keep hearing with people developing projects thinking when the cure and the vaccine comes out, there are going to be all these productions and people are going to need scripts, right?
Yeah.
Think about what's happening. You have production halt. Those scripts are already greenlit, right?
Yeah.
And everybody with a laptop writing scripts right now.
Well, and these people and some of these people with the laptops you're talking about have Oscars, have track records, have connections.
So if you think that, let's say by April, there's going to be a vaccine and now all the production is going to go out, there's not going to be more PA, DPs, cameras. I mean, we already were making so much content to increase the capacity of what Hollywood is independent and foreign productions were doing. There is not a lot that we can go up to. We can increase it by 5%, 10%. There is a maximum amount of like DPs and cameras, right?
Yeah.
Scripts, there is a lot, right? So the value of scripts is not going to go higher because maybe there's going to be a 10% increase, hopefully in production, right? But with that said, as you know, don't everybody that you remotely know on your Facebook or anything writing scripts right now?
Everybody.
What kind of surge of scripts? Like why, how are we going to look like in a world that scripts already have almost no value because there is so much supply of them compared to demand. And now it's going to be so much more supplies because everybody's at home writing scripts.
Right. And then the agencies are going to be inundated. And I think projects are going to be the ones who have the connections, who have package deals ready to go with talent, with ad director, with everything attached.
Like usual. Yeah.
So if you think you're going to just write a script and send it over to CAA and they're going to go, oh my God, thank God you sent this over because we were hurting for scripts. Can we just give you $1 million cash now? Will that work for you? Like that's a delusion. And
that's so many text messages. Oh, I think it's great time for this. It's great time to develop this. Great time to develop this. Like, I'm not developing anything. I'm helping my, I'm lucky enough to have connections that, we have deals in the pipeline. So
Sure.
We're making this family movie for a broadcaster. So obviously I'm developing it. Was supposed to shoot in September. We'll just have to wait until February or March or whenever it is to shoot it. So I'm not slowing down on that one. Or actually I am slowing down, but I know it's going to go somewhere. It is going to make a hole in our production. So hole in production means hole in your income, your mortgage still need to be paid. You still need to eat.
Well, no, but banks are very understanding. They're very understanding and
I know,
very. So you should be fine.
So yes, it's a problem for us. But truthful, you're in a good place that you do have a place that I can get the movie finance. And then I'm helping other people to do this like COVID type projects, which is interesting. But they're done on a very low budget, and they're done as, hey, we're going to go out, we're going to do it. Everybody's a partner, we're going to spend $50,000 on whatever we need, but nobody's expecting, again, it's not a passion project that somebody worked for 10 years and they're going to expect to win an Oscar. It is what it is. It's basically keeping busy and keeping the people busy at the moment. There is a surge in animation because everybody thought about the genius idea that you can do animation from home. And they're the only one who thought about it. There was a surge in podcasts, right? Because
oh my God, please don't get me started with the surge in podcast. Now all of a sudden I turn on, there's a new filmmaking podcast. Oh, there's another new filmmaking podcast. And
everybody had the brilliant idea.
Everybody's coming in.
Possible under
all I need is a mic and a computer, and I could call some friends and we could talk about film. Let's do this. And I'm all about I have a podcast network and I'm bringing in new podcasts, but. Like I start listening to some of these things, I'm like, oh my God, like everybody, and a few of them already started to fill it off. Like they started in February, and now they're like, you see it in June or July. They're just like, yeah, we're done. This is really, it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of work.
And it's a lot of work, and it's not that easy. No, it's easy to record. It's easy to just jump on Skype and just talk like this. It's easy to point an iPhone or get the Red Cam for cheap and point at something. To have something that appealing and create value for an audience, and also know how to find that audience
and market.
Very, very hard.
And that's the thing that, if we could use podcasters for an example, they don't understand is that I've been doing this now for 5 years. I'm not the oldest podcaster by any stretch. There's podcasters out there who've been in our space, in the filmmaking and screenwriting space, been doing this for 10 years. But the thing is that we have an audience that we've built. I have an infrastructure. That's why I have 5 podcasts now, because why not? But I have an infrastructure that I can kind of run things through. And that's and it's a perfect analogy for what you were saying at the very beginning was you have an infrastructure now to sell movies. I have an infrastructure to release podcasts and then do everything that I do with Indie Film Hustle because I've built that over the years. And I have a value there that I present to an audience. You have a value because you can make a call to that buyer in France and go, I've got Indie Film Hustle, the movie. And it stars Shaked and Alex. And, as a crime fighting duo, that fights against evil distributors. And, I need, how much can we get? And he'll go, both of you are in it? 80,000 just for France. So obviously, but you have that. I can't make that phone call because I don't have that relationship. I can't provide that value, but you do. So it's just about, and I want filmmakers listening to understand that it's like you said, making content is easy. Opening up Skype, calling you, recording this is easy. The hard part is packaging it, marketing it, putting it out there as a valuable thing to an audience. And that's where filmmakers need to understand that's why my whole film entrepreneur model is find a niche audience, create value for that niche audience, market to that niche audience, because you can actually focus your energies on a niche audience as opposed to a broad, I'm going to do 18 to 45 males who like Turbo Kid. I'm like, that's a pretty large audience. You know what I mean?
And also just getting into it is really about understanding the value, because if I want to have a new podcast for myself, I'd much rather call you and say, hey, I want to make a podcast. Can I give you whatever it is, 20%, 50%? Can I join your network? Can you help with the marketing? Instead of thinking, this is easy. I'm just going to build a website and just going to do it myself. Because probably I can start from such a higher point. Even if I need to give you 50%, not to do marketing for your podcast network, but even if I give you 50%, like I said before, it's like if I can have at least 50% more revenue, right? Plus $1.
Oh, you're going to get a few more listeners being in an established filmmaking network.
Exactly.
As opposed to you just launching by yourself and then trying to go after that same audience.
Yeah. So
you leverage. If you
think, hey, I can put my movie myself on iTunes, I can, or on Vimeo and YouTube, and I can put the movie myself on Amazon Direct. If you don't think that having a distributor, and yes, pay them a 35% fee. If you don't think that they can, with their relationship in press, festivals, experience with marketing, a mailing list of 100,000 horror fans or whatever it is, if you don't think that will make you 35% more than what can you do yourself, not considering also doing a lot less work yourself, you're probably wrong. You're probably worth every % of it.
But the thing is also that is, again, case by case. It all depends on the movie. It all depends on the distributor. So there's so many X factors with that statement that filmmakers need to, we're the only business that there is no one path. There is no, I make a bottle of olive oil. I go to the supermarket and I sell it at the supermarket. I go to a farmer's market and I sell it at a farmer's market. There's a handful of distribution outlets for that product. And there's a guaranteed price point that you're going to get for that. Relatively speaking, if I spent $2 to make a quality bottle of olive oil, what type of olive oil am I making? Is it gourmet that it's $25 a bottle, which is what I used to sell my bottles for? Or is it more just $8 just to get it out the door? But there's a range there. In movies, there isn't. There's just
there is no intrinsic value, right? I mean, if you sell a car, then you can, even if it doesn't run, you can take it apart and the parts have
there's something
value,
there,
right?
Yeah.
But it's the only industry that you can build a car with no wheels and no doors and no windshield, and then walk around and say, I'm supposed to be winning Formula One with this car. How come I'm not winning? How come this car is not selling? Because that's what we do, right? When you're an architect, you need to go to school.
Yep.
You can't just watch other houses and say,
no, watch HGTV.
I like houses.
HGTV. That's all you need to do is watch HGTV, flip a couple houses.
And I can just build a house. If there is no door and there is no windows, and if you didn't actually design it for the land that you have, and you need to
no foundation,
survey the land and figure out what it's made.
That's a lot of work.
That's
a lot of
work.
work.
Going to sell.
It's a lot of work. I don't want that.
But anybody can shoot a movie with no audience in mind, no, thought about it, no, just no structure, no pacing, no anything, and just say that all the distributors don't know, the festivals don't know what they're doing because they didn't accept your movie.
But at the end of the day, the difference is that this is art.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term, this is
it's
art.
The other side.
It's art. You're selling art. That's why a guy who tapes an old banana onto a wall sells it for $1 million as an art piece.
Okay, that's a different story. Okay, we can talk about that, but that's different.
No.
The publicity more than the
but
right?
I understand.
It's
but
attention, right?
but the point is that it's still art. Someone added, like anytime you buy art has no value to it. It's canvas, paint. Let's say it's canvas and paint, basically, right? And a frame.
No.
And what? No.
It's a canvas and paint.
Yes.
And the 40 hours it takes to make an oil painting.
Fine.
And the 40 years it took the artist to practice and hone the craft to get there.
Absolutely, right? 110%. You're absolutely correct. Now, the value that I put on that 40 years of talent is relative. I can look at that painting and go, oh my God, look at the strokes. Look at the way he did this. Look at the craftsmanship. Someone else will look at it and go, that's horrible. I don't like red. And they won't be. So it's all about what a person that you're looking at it thinks it's worth. What did they just sell that? The most expensive, the Da Vinci. They found a Da Vinci painting and they sold it for $450 million or something like that. It was a record breaking thing.
Pocket change. Yeah.
Right. But when you buy something like that, there's literally probably 20 people in the world, 30 people in the world who could buy that.
Yeah.
That would buy that. So,
but what's interesting is that Picasso will increase in value.
Yeah, it was a Picasso.
While your movie will not increase in value.
Right.
Movies, unfortunately, if you build a house, if you take $5 million and you use it to build a house, or you take $5 million and you make it to make a movie, the house that you built for $5 million will make your rent for eternity. Right? Yes, you need to maintain it. You need to fix the roof every few, decades. But if you don't sell it, you can make rent for your grandkids, your grand-grandkids, and your grand-grand-grandkids. Mm-hmm. When you take $5 million to make a movie, you can maybe have a big hit for the weekend, the opening weekend and stuff. But, the value is going to go down. And if it's really good, it's going to have a long tail. And maybe, like Friends or like Seinfeld will make a few million a year. But it's still a decreasing... a decreasing long tail as opposed to increasing and appreciating and making a consistent and even increasing rent for the rest of your life.
If you look at Mariachi, when it came out, it had some value to it, and it definitely had a tremendous amount of value for his career.
Yeah.
But how much does El Mariachi bring in a year for Sony now? Like, honestly, what is Paranormal Activity 1 bringing in, yearly? I'm sure it's still making good money.
This is why you need to keep making sequels to keep the franchise alive
and packaging it together. Like the Saws. Like, how much does Saw 1 make? If there would have only one Saw and not 8 of them, how you can't package it. So there's how can you continue to make money with these things for long periods of time? But you're right. The most money you're going to make is at the top. And even now that because of COVID, Jurassic Park, Empire Strikes Back, these were number 1 movies at the box office again. We're still talking about a few million. They didn't pull in 100 million.
It's not the same. Yeah,
their peak is their peak. So you're absolutely right.
And those are brilliant.
Oh, they're that's the Picassos. Picassos.
Both commercial and as art, right? They're brilliant on those 2 things, right? I mean, if you look at,
they're evergreen.
One of my favorite, we were just watching Terminator, right? The first 2 Terminator. They're just so wonderful. They hold up. They're just still entertainment and still, some of my movies. I watch them 3 years later, and they're like, it feels like a 70s movie. They just don't hold up as much. Right. They don't become classics. Okay, speaking of the network, should I plug in some of our movies that are out now so I can
absolutely
push them to your client? So what are we doing right now? We just released a series that is right now first for 30 days on Amazon Prime exclusive and then going out in other VOD outlets called Etheria. It's based on the Etheria Film Festival, which is short films made by female filmmakers. Mm-hmm. The first season just came out last weekend. And we're coming out with the second season next month, and we're going to go every month with a new season. We already have 6 seasons in work.
Wow.
Beside that, my company just released a documentary about the Tony Hawk video game Pro Skater.
Oh yeah, I saw the trailer for that. It looks great.
It's on the top 10 on iTunes right now. It's top 10 on Amazon. It's top 10 in a lot of places. It's called Pretending I'm a Superman, the Tony Hawk video game story. I know it's a very concise title.
Niche. It's that's also a very niche film, which is fascinating.
It's very niche. It's very niche film on one hand, but on the other hand, I asked my mother-in-law if she knows who Tony Hawk is, and she knew. And Tony Hawk is very supportive. He's tweeting about it. There's Instagram about it. Portion of the revenue goes to his charity, which gives him an incentives. By the way,
that's business
for the people.
That's business. Right? That's business. Yeah.
So his charity is getting a piece of it. It's very nostalgic. It's about the Pro Skater game and how it started.
I remember it.
Yeah, the new Pro Skater remaster is coming out by Activision, so we're riding on their marketing. They're spending $100 million on marketing, so we're doing that.
Smart.
Beside that, we released our label, The Horror Collective, which released genre films, just released a few wonderful movies. We have a sci-fi body horror called Shifter, which is right now out in VOD everywhere. We just recently released Blood Vessel, which is still in the top 50 or even 20 on iTunes in the US. And about to come out in the UK as well. And a comedy, a Shaun of the Dead type comedy called Two Heads Creek, which is 90% on Rotten Tomato, doing very well, out on VOD now. So please check them out. Check it out iTunes, check it out Amazon, check it out on DirecTV, Spectrum, wherever you get your films. Check them out. And do a favor, not just for those films, for all independent films. Go on the platform you watch them and give the movie a review. Give it 4-star, give it 5-star, whatever you feel is fair, and write a small review, because the best marketing is in platform marketing, and the world today is so customizable. So when you go on Amazon, the movies that are directed at you are not the movies that are promoted to me. So if you put reviews on the movies you like, people that like the same things are going to see the same content, and you're going to help the filmmakers get there. So please, if you have filmmaker friends, go and rate their movies. If you saw indie movies that you like or TV shows, please go and review them. Go on Amazon, go on Rotten Tomato, whatever. Write a quick reviews and help other people that have similar taste find the same film. Giving a star review and writing a shit review doesn't really help, because Amazon and Netflix, they don't recommend you movies that are, it's a positive system, right?
Sure.
So support the movies you like and just don't do anything about the movies you don't.
I appreciate that. Absolutely. Yeah. And check out
support Indie Hustle. Subscribe.
Obviously,
please subscribe on Stitcher or whatever. All those things.
Since we're doing this, please, everyone who's seen On the Corner of Ego and Desire, my latest film, please go on Amazon and leave a review. I greatly appreciate it.
5-star review.
5-star review. If you don't like the movie,
and Alex said,
please, if you don't like the movie, then just don't say anything.
Something else.
And one last question, sir. Is there anything you want to say to the audience about working with a distributor, how to deal with a distributor, a myth that needs to be busted? I think we've talked a lot about that in this episode, but is there any parting words you want to give to the tribe?
Yes. Obviously, we can talk about that for 4 hours, and we will come back, we'll talk about that. But the first thing is, when you look at a deal, look less about the deal and ask more questions. It's got to do with the strategy and who's going to be working on it, right? If it's the owners, or you're just dealing with somebody in the system that get paid to just get the paper signed. That's a deal origination. Once you already have the deal, stay engaged with the distributor and help the distributor, because the more you help and you stay engaged, they will be engaged with you. So try to make content, not just like, where's my report, where's my money, but, also keep working and reposting things and contact and say, hey, I'm talking with my cast. Can we make them available for interviews? Can we make them available to postings? Can you share with us information so we can customize it for a cast to keep their audience and fans engaged? Help them help you, because really, like I believe that a director and a producer, have to work together. The filmmakers and the distributors have to work together as a team. If they're not working together as a team, then the movie is going to suffer for sure.
And where can people find Juicer if they want to reach out? If you want anybody,
easy to find.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm easy to find. I'm Shaked Berenson on Twitter and Shaked Berenson EP on Facebook. My name it's my personal one, but I have a Shaked Berenson EP for business one. Company is Entertainment Squad. It's more B2B, but our labels like the Horror Call, the Horror Collective, has Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. I believe we have a TikTok even.
Wow. Are you a TikToker, sir? Are you a TikToker?
I am not a TikToker, but if it will help to sell film, I will do a dance. So write comments right here on Indie Film Hustle, and tell Alex if we should do a dance together to sell film, because we will do it.
Absolutely.
This is indie filmmaking and indie distribution. Yes. We'll do anything it takes.
Dance monkey, dance monkey, dance. That's
exactly.
My friend, wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show again. Alex. And really thank you so much for being so raw, truthful, honest. Somewhat brutal. I think I was a little bit more brutal than you, which is rare.
I was positive today. Yeah.
It's a rare statement. Generally, you're the one slamming the hammer, but I think you're as you get older, you're mellowing out.
I'm happier these days. Yeah, definitely.
I'm becoming more bitter. I don't know why. I just more.
No,
I'm not.
You're building an empire, and I'm glad and happy. This is, I think, my third interview with you. Yeah. Like you said, a lot of the podcasts, you do one interview and they just disappear, right? So the fact that you can have the same guests coming and giving updates and build the community not only for your audience but also for your guests and your speakers, that's wonderful. So,
my friend,
I take my virtual hat and my virtual conversation with you.
Stay safe, my friend.
You too. Thank you so much.
I want to thank Shaked for coming on the show and dropping those raw truth bombs on the tribe today. Thank you so much, Shaked. And if you want to get links to anything we spoke about in this episode, head over to the show notes at indiefilmhustle.com/422. And guys, I hope you are enjoying these extra episodes that are coming out of the podcast. Tomorrow, there'll be another new episode, 2 a week for the next, 5-6 weeks, maybe a little longer, so I can get all of these amazing interviews out to you guys. I know that 2020 has been a brutal year for the world as well as for us independent filmmakers and dealing with what's going on in our small corner of the world. But in 2021, I have a lot of cool stuff I've been working on in the lab to hopefully help you guys on your path and get you to where you need to be. So thank you so much for listening. I really hope that this podcast has helped you get through 2020 a little bit better, just a little bit easier. And I appreciate you and honor the journey that you are on as a filmmaker. Thank you so much for listening, guys. As always, keep that hustle going. Keep that dream alive. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Indie Film Hustle podcast at indiefilmhustle.com. That's INDIEFILMHUSTLE.com.